And welcome to this week's edition of the WRRAP podcast with me, Lee G. Joining me, as always, is the usual combination of Nick, Harley, and Jamie. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Evening.
Good evening.
So we were kind of hoping, well, we weren't hoping, but we said first thing this morning it was a bit of a quiet day for News Desk, Jamie. I was thinking, man, trying to think about who'd moved and all that kind of stuff and racking my brains. And you waved your magic fairy wand and away she comes. So, News Desk, all yours, mate.
Yes, plenty of news to get through this week. So starting with Wales then. Wales has suffered a double injury blow ahead of the England game. So wingers Tom Rogers and Josh Adams are out and they've been released from the squad due to injuries. So Rogers suffered a fractured thumb during the Scotland defeat and was forced off after just 10 minutes. Adams, meanwhile, he sustained a hamstring injury in training, so he's gone back to Cardiff Rugby for rehab. So it looks like Josh Hathaway is the likely option to replace Rogers and is actually in the Wales squad, which I think a lot of people, when I say people, I mean people on Facebook are forgetting. You know, everyone is saying, oh, call up Rio Dyer, call up Cam Winnett, call up, all these guys. It's like, no, we do have Josh Hathaway in the squad. So, yeah, he looks like he's going to be the next cab off the rank, so to speak. So, yeah, big news ahead of the England game. And then some signing news then. So Cardiff have officially announced the signing of Ioan Lloyd from the Scarlets. We all know this was a done deal, but it has been officially announced today. Interestingly, on Cardiff's website, it does say that he will compete with Callum Sheedy for the number 10 jersey while providing cover across the back line with the ability to play centre, wing and fullback. So it does look like he is being brought in as a 10, but obviously if they need him to, he will cover other positions. So I don't know if Leo, you got anything to say on that? I mean, we have discussed it before, I know, but now it's officially done. Any words?
Cardiff are never going 5-3 split again. In fact, I think we might see a 7-1 at some point next season if we can sign some tight 5 forwards, which is what we really need. There's no point putting 5 back rowers on the bench. Although,
for me, yeah, he's a lovely little runner and all of that kind of stuff. It's frustrating. It's just some of the options that he takes are just frustrating. There were moments where his kicking game really starting to improve and he was putting it into the corners and you thought, yeah, do you know what, this is it, here we go, sort of thing, and there'd be a great competition between him and Costello. But as soon as Costello came back fit, even when Costello came back fit, Ioan Lloyd was still getting the shirt ahead of him, but he just didn't seem to want it. He just went back into, we'll run everything. And I think the last game we played, he kicked the ball 4 times from hand in 80 minutes. So, yeah, I think Scarlet supporters have... there'll be some that will miss him, not a great amount. So, yeah, hope he does better at Cardiff than he has done for the Scarlets so far.
I think it'll help as well that Jockey's actually a fly half, and so he actually knows how to coach a fly half. Whereas I think this, some of the criticism that he's levelled at Dwayne Peel over the time is that Scarlets have had 2 very young 10s, and no one there to sort of mould them and know how to improve their game. Whereas, they've basically got to try and learn off each other. And I don't think Scarlett's game plan works really well for Ioan Lloyd, apart from when he's at fullback.
I'll move on, James.
Yeah, so re-signing news then. So Roger Williams, he signed a new deal with the Dragons. Very pleased about that. 31-year-old in his 7th season now, and he's racked up 123 appearances, and he's hit double figures in every campaign with the Dragons. So, yeah, like I said, really pleased about that. Probably does signal the end of Dane Blacker. And no disrespect to Dane, I think that's probably for the best, if I'm honest. But, we got some good young scrum halves coming through now. So, yeah, very pleased about that. And then the Scarlets, Tommy Lewis, he signed a new deal. He's been out for a while with injury, hasn't he? But, yeah, he signed a new deal. And Sam Parry, Wales soccer Sam Parry, he signed a new Ospreys deal. So he's made 168 appearances so far. And he's 4th on the Ospreys all-time try scorer list with 43 tries. Did you know that, Nick?
I didn't know that, but I'm not surprised. Although he's probably not very happy with Mark Jones' new way of playing.
No, no, probably not. No. Yeah, that's all the news I got anyway for this week.
Well, I have got one little bit to add to that. That we've been promised an announcement this week from the Scarlets, a new signing, possibly Thursday, but that might move. But we've been promised a new signing this week. No idea who, where,
You
or
know
any
exactly
of that
who
stuff.
it is. You just don't want to get into
Oh,
trouble.
shut up!
No idea who, but Wales Online have literally just printed out an article saying where he's going. And we knew about it for months. You might.
I'm gonna have to cut that
You
bit
don't
now
have to
because
cut anything. I didn't say your
No.
name. I didn't say
You
your
didn't
name.
say anything.
I didn't say your name.
Johnson.
It's already in Wales Online. It's
Yeah, I
literally in
know.
Wales Online. So you don't have to cut
Yeah.
anything.
And it was
Yo.
mentioned on that Scum 5 podcast this morning about
Yeah, it
stay up
was.
the
It's on
game.
the scrum foot. Yeah, you don't need to cut anything, Lee. Everyone knows. It's not a secret, mate. Everybody knows.
Oh, for fuck's sake!
You might have to cut that bit.
I'm definitely gonna have to cut that bit, Jim.
Oh, God. Okay, go on. Then. Move on.
So anyway, yeah, Scarlett are announcing somebody later this week. Fucking hell, you boys. Anyway, Scarlett are signing a somebody this week. They'll be announcing it later this week. And we shall wait with bated breath, eager to know who it will be, the big name signing. So anyway, there is somebody else coming. We've been promised over the next 12 weeks one bit of signing news per week. So that's what we've been promised. So
Look forward to that. Wonder who it is.
I've had enough editing.
I wonder if he's Welsh qualified.
Oh, right. Let's move on. Right.
Right, I'm done now anyway. So
yeah. Let's move on to the women's game. So Harley, a couple of games over the weekend and a podcast to look forward to.
Yeah, so the Celtic Challenge wrapped up. So Guardia took another home defeat against Clovers. Brithon did the double over Glasgow. So the way the final standings are, Wolfhounds are finished top of the table after their 105-0 win over Edinburgh, which makes me feel really bad because I tipped Edinburgh to be a title contender, but it just seemed to all go wrong. They have since sacked their coach, which for a development league is impressive. Yeah, Gwalior, but for Welsh interest, Gwalior were third on 31 points, and then Brithon actually came fourth with 17, so they beat both the Scottish sides. But it should be said, we had, whereas the two Irish teams are basically the Irish squad, the two Welsh teams had a fair, hefty international representation, and Scotland side didn't really have anyone who's already an international cap. You know, they very much carry on with their URC thing of build the players up and then ship them off to England as soon as possible.
So, plenty of talk on this week's pod about I've forgotten his name, the new coach.
Yep, so we'll be talking about Sean Lynn and his new squad. So we'll be recording on Friday, and we'll probably do a bit of a preview into the PWR final, as there's a lot of Welsh interest across the two teams. Yeah, so that should be in everyone's feed Saturday morning for a nice sort of leisurely thing to kick off Super Saturday.
Indeed. Okay, so Nick, you have the pleasure of taking us through the under-20s. So how was the under-20s on Friday?
Oh, it was just so Welsh, wasn't it? You know, we sort of had 1-2 games, had a very good performance, backs against the walls, but deservedly won at Newport. Got up there with a little bit of confidence, got up there perhaps as favourites, really. We just didn't really perform. We were all right in the first quarter. We had chances, fantastic break from Tom Bowen, but we couldn't quite finish it off. And then after that, our discipline just went out the window. You know, you can't argue about any of the yellow card or the straight red, which is very unusual these days to have a straight red. The one player I think who was absolute class, and unfortunately he was Scottish, was Freddie Douglas there, open side flanker. He's already got a cap. He's obviously been earmarked early in his career as one for the future, and he absolutely looked a different class. Beddle's a very good 7, but it was a bit like Jack Morgan playing for Wales under-20s. And as the game went on, obviously down to 14 men, we were always up against it. We scored a couple of decent tries. Johan Emanuel had a good game at Loosehead, and obviously he's a good ball handler as well. But we were never seriously going to win. And Scotland confidence grew. They wanted it perhaps a little bit more than we did, and they deservedly won 27-12. And we have we can look forward now to England coming down to the Cap on Friday night. The massive England pack, very successful England team, looking for a Grand Slam.
Just to add to Nick's comments there, so before that Wales game, Scotland had lost 22 of their last 23 games at under 20s levels. So it was really disappointing to lose to that Scotland team. But yeah, very disappointing. Like, just compounding errors, poor discipline, missed opportunities. Feel sorry for Harry Ford. Another one to add to the Dragons' ever-growing injury list. He had to go off early. It was his first start of the campaign, so I wish him a speedy recovery. But yeah, a night to forget for Wales under 20s, I'm afraid.
I mean, what on earth are they doing in Dragons? Because he had one appearance off the bench for the Dragons, and he gets cropped the next game.
Something going on.
I do want to say, because someone on here gives the refs can give refs a lot of stick on here. So I do want to highlight a referee who did his job well. So Japanese referee Katsuki Furu's for one going for a straight red and saying, no, that is a straight red I'm going for. Straight after I just posted in a group chat very confidently, we'd never see a straight red in rugby ever again. But also because he'd not long just given a yellow card upgraded to a red and didn't seem biased against, whereas you sometimes do see a bit of correction from referees. And I think both decisions were quite right. Quite weird that the Welsh card, I mean, we're not talking about the Ireland game, obviously, but it was interesting that we saw a very similar clear out. In fact, arguably a more deliberate clear out, go completely unpunished. But we'll hear more about that in the coming weeks. But yes, that was an exit. I thought the referee was very good, very spot on with those decisions. Again, it almost felt like Wales expected to win. And then as soon as Scotland came up with a little bit more bite about them, they panicked and then started doing stupid stuff. That clear up from the scrum half was just desperation, and he just, and he messed it up wrong, and he got rightly punished for it. That charge down was a bit. I mean, I thought it was actually it was almost for upper arm to upper arm, and then maybe the head clapped. But when you start seeing the active thing, yeah, it was a bit disappointing for what was probably one of the best Welsh campaigns in the Six Nations for close to a decade. And I think England is just insert the Captain Holt Payne gif.
Okay. Well, we won't preview the England game because it's pretty much not pointless, but yeah, it would be a painful experience, put it that way, with that. Okay. Let's move on then and talk senior Wales trip up to Scotland. I mean, it started rough, it finished great. Who said, Jamie, you go on, you summarise the game as you saw it, mate, and then we'll chip in after.
Well, the damage was done in the first half, wasn't it? That was the problem. And when you look at the stats from the first half, it tells its own story. So Wales only had 39% possession, 37% territory, 16 missed tackles, 236 metres made compared to Scotland's 611. I mean, it was a very, very disappointing first half, and it was about to decline after that. And last week's pod, I asked, could we back it up? That performance against Ireland, could we back it up? And the answer is no, we couldn't. We just looked disjointed in attack, very suspect in defence, compounding errors. The kicking game was really poor. Credit to Scotland. Yeah, they were very clinical. Their back three was excellent. But some of the tries, they were so soft, weren't they? Missed tackles, players out of position. Ellis Mead did have a really difficult time against Van der Merwe, particularly for that try. He missed that tackle and then Tom Jordan scored. And then that bonus point try, which was just Keystone Cop stuff. A poor kick from Ben Thomas. I mean, I could see what he was trying to do, but it just wasn't the time to be doing it. And then, Blair Murray chucks the ball back in field. And then, Ben Thomas fumbles it and then Tom Jordan pounces to score. It was just a really soft, comical try. So that was disappointing. Will Griff-John. He's back to the Will Griff-John that we all know, isn't he? He was so good against Ireland. He was so good, and we praised him to the hilt. But goodness me, that yellow card. I mean, have you ever seen a dumber yellow card than that? No idea what he was doing. He was offside. way offside for starting to stick a leg out like that. So dumb. Just don't know what he was thinking. And then there was that knock on at the beginning of the second half. It was just a very, very bad day for Will Cliff John, wasn't it? Really bad day. Second half was obviously better. Especially in the last 20 minutes. I thought our bench made an impact this time. The front row replacements in particular were very good. Azarati showed up the scrum. I was quite impressed with him. I never really felt we were going to win that game, but I do wonder if Faletau's try had stood. And we all wanted it to stand, didn't we? But, I don't want to go into it now, but the discourse around it's been so boring. Blair Murray jumping into tackle, you can't do it. But had that try stood, I do wonder whether we could have pulled it off. I thought we did well to come back from 35-8 down. I mean, we could have easily, gone to the wall and just completely imploded. That didn't happen. Can't fault the effort and the fight. There is a lot of effort and fight and endeavour in this Wales team. But ultimately, we just came up short. And as for the positives, I want to give a shout out to Joe Roberts. Obviously, he had to come on to replace Tom Rogers. This is a centre playing our position on the wing. I thought he was excellent. I thought it was really good. So that break he made after 80 plus minutes, I just thought was fantastic. I was very impressed with him. Jack Morgan just continues to be superb for Wales. He's definitely going on the lines too, isn't he? His work rate's off the charts. He's had a fantastic campaign. Dav Jenkins putting in another solid shift. Talupe Faletau, what can we say about him? World class. To think people were doubting and questioning why Wales were selected him. Well, the reason we kept selecting him is because he's world class, and he showed again how brilliant he is. Just superb. I quite like the try as well that Blair Murray scored. Great visual for Manscombe. That trip over the top, that was a really nice set piece. That was really good. But like I said, you can't fault the effort and never say die to this Wales team. But it did feel like Scotland took their foot off the gas, and then that's why we sort of came back into it. But the game was done and dusted. So I do think the scoreline flatters us a bit. But although I was impressed with the way we came back, it did feel like Scotland took their foot off the gas. So yeah, disappointing that we couldn't back it up against Ireland, but maybe that was too big an ask when we think about it now, looking back, because we was away from home and Scotland are a very good team at Murrayfield. So yeah, disappointing, but we did get 2 losing bonus points out of it, so that's something, I guess, isn't it?
So Nick, I mean, Jamie's spoken about the bench making an impact, and you were talking in the chat group earlier about how people come off, well, who comes on when they come on, all of that kind of stuff, and bench selection. So do you think we got it right? We always say,
No, I don't think we get it. I
thought
don't
made
think
a
we get
good
it right
impact.
in Welsh rugby. We're a bit old school. We had a bad experience against Fiji, where first of all the bench selection was wrong, and that you need to have a more of utility type of a scrum half and a utility, especially when you've got Ben Thomas playing, who can play a number of positions, as can Llewellyn. And I just think I just think that we're a little bit old school in a 5-3 split. I think, and also I don't quite get why we have to make substitutions 50 minutes plus. Especially in the front row. If you bring your props on after 40 minutes at half time, and there's an injury, they can come back on anyway because you have to have because they can scrum. You want competitive scrums. So I just think other coaches in other countries seem to have taken this on board quicker than we have, especially when we're not the most physical team. To have fresh legs is something we should consider. I'm not saying it would have made a huge difference to the game. We were out, as I agree, everything Jamie said. The first half was so disappointing. But I just think we need to think perhaps, and maybe the new coach will bring that, perhaps a little bit more modern and more ambitious in our use of the bench, which other coaches of other countries and other teams. I think it's also true of our regional teams as well, and how we use and select our bench for our regional teams.
Okay.
I just want to count that because actually I think Jockey got the usage of the bench quite right, because he brought the front rowers on at 45 minutes, which they said. I do wonder why, because it's something that always comes up, is why they do it on 45 minutes, not on 40. And I do think a part of it is the coach wants to see how the opposition have adjusted over at halftime and what they've tried to do, and then bring changes on with the counter message. But I mean, that's all back and forth. I thought Teddy Williams having like an actual decent stint, that seemed to raise the game with Wales, like just the carrying him and Derry Lake sort of drove that on, and then Wainwright, they doing hard carrying, and allowed Wainwright to do a little bit more. I think we got the back row selection completely wrong. I feel a lot more justified in my Jack Morgan and Tommy Reffel just do not make a good back row pairing. Basically, you just, they both end up trying to do turnovers and trying to do tackles when really maybe you just need one of them going over the ball hard. I mean, part of the reason we had Elliot D and Nicky Smith on was to try and slow down and pitch ball didn't really work. I think maybe if you had a more abrasive six, whether you're looking at someone like Chunza or Wainwright, just chop them down. That's the thing. I mean, the problem is, I just think Rowlands again, I just don't think, I think we're all hoping Rowlands will somehow roll back the years and go back to the Will Rowlands of the Dragons era, or Pete Pitbull Rowlands, as Jamie calls it. It's just not happening. I think, we're almost losing a carrier. He's not that dynamic. He's not getting to attacking breakdowns as quickly as you need a player to do. And that was a big problem. So we gave away 8 of our 11 penalties. 8 of them were attack. And it was almost exclusively because we got turned over, because Scotland were able to get over that ball and we weren't securing rucks properly. There were a few where we got counter-drived. There was one where Matt Fagerson drove off Wainwright and Faletau off the ball in a ruck because they were just like a little bit slow getting there. And we, their double job and having been on the far wing doing the same thing. So I think that's one thing. As a 6-2, at the moment, I don't know who with Anscombe basically being a 50-minute player, I just don't think he's got the fitness to do much more than that at international level. You've got to have a 10 on the bench. And we've shown that Ben Thomas probably isn't the guy at 10 for Wales. So I'd hate to use him in that position. And I'll be honest, with the forwards we've got left over, for example, if we say we drop Rowlands and put Teddy Williams in, I'm not sure who I'd want as my replacement second row there anyway in a 5-3. Never mind if you want to bring a second one on for 6-2. So I think that's where we're a bit stymied. I mean, I think
there are
squad,
options.
Relevant.
Sorry, Harley. I think there are options. Then you got Freddie Thomas, who could add some dynamism as coming on in the second row replacement. I think if Jared Evans is starting at 10, he could possibly go 80. So it probably would mean that Anscombe wouldn't be in the 23 at all. But I think with sort of Roger Williams or Bevan and Joe Roberts on the bench, I think you do have options to have 6 forwards. But it's not going to happen. We'll go 5-3 next Saturday, and might well prove to be the right decision.
To be fair, Jockey hasn't been afraid to do 6-2s in Cardiff as well. To be fair, when the situation's gone, I'm just saying I'm not too sure with the way things are set up. We've quite got the right thing. I'm not so convinced as Freddie Thomas is a lock, because you're giving away an awful lot of size. Because he's only 6'4" and he gives up a couple of stone.
He'd be fine for 20 minutes with other lineups options.
Got to be better than Rowlands.
We said that about Aaron Shingler at the World Cup in 2019, and that there were some shit your pants moments in that.
Whoever we put in is going to be undersized compared to England, so we may as well put somebody in that's going to play our game and play our game our way. For me, part of the issue last Saturday, we kept having Thomas Williams popping up in the 13 channel in defence. It was obviously a tactical move where he was trying to fly out the line and get to 13 to stop the ball coming out. But it didn't work and he got exposed quite a lot. What then happened is when we did turn the ball over, he was a mile out of position and we weren't able to make any use of the ball until he got there. There were a couple of rucks where we said we got turned over, Harley. Actually, we'd secured the ball. The ball is there, but nobody's coming in because Thomas Williams is trotting over and then we're getting driven off the ball. So there's a couple of bits in there where either, if you're going to take Thomas Williams out and put him in the 13 to shoot out, then you've got to have some kind of understanding about who comes in at 9 when he's not there. So, that's not a difficult thing to work out. And these guys are professional players. They should be able to have a bit of brain and go, okay, yeah, I'll come in and do that. But we never, yeah, I think we had got turned over like 3 times because Thomas Williams was out of position. I'm not blaming him for that. I'm saying that it was a tactical move to move him in defence and push him out to 13. You can see him quite frequently. You know, there's phase one, he's in the scrum half position. As soon as we move into 2 rucks, he's in the 13 and he's trying to fly out. So it was obviously tactical, but it just didn't work. And I think it put him off his game. I don't think Anscombe had a bad game, but he certainly didn't have a good game. He didn't have a great game, you know, and that then shifts the pressure on the playmaking out to Ben Thomas. You're almost playing with 14 players because Anscombe's not really doing anything. He's not adding anything to the game. He's, like I say, there's questions over his fitness. He must have questions over his fitness. So you know, it doesn't add any positivity to the game. I think the issue then is who do you bring in at 10? And yeah, I would go with Jared. What have you got to lose? You know, what's there to lose? So, you know, I thought yes, there was issues with players on the pitch, but I also think some of the tactics that we tried to bring in just plainly didn't work, and we didn't react to what Scotland were doing. What I would say is we scored 4 tries. I can't remember the last time we scored 4 tries. I don't think we scored 4 tries under Gatland in the World Cup. We may have done. I think it was one of the easy games. Anyway, we're starting to score tries again.
Australia.
Was it Australia we scored 4 against?
We scored 4 tries against Australia. We scored. I think we scored against Fiji, but Fiji also scored 4. So that was
and Portugal.
Fiji
yeah.
was again. Portugal was the one I was thinking of. Fiji, I thought we scored 3.
I thought it was 4, and they scored 4 as well. Very in like the last 20, because again, our benching issues in the second row.
Yeah.
I just want to bring up one thing though. I would like to praise, because although we didn't get many opportunities to attack because Brooks scored and stuff, when we actually did get into 22, we were twice as efficient as Scotland. Yeah. So Scotland had 14 entries and only got 2.5 points per entry. Big part of that was some absolutely fantastic goal line defence, especially in the second half. Again, I just think we just weren't quite. I don't know if they just hadn't got off the bus or whatever, but we were scoring 5.2. So of our 5 entries, we scored 5.2 points. Arguably, it should be a bit further up because because 1 entry would have been that disallowed Faletau try. But I mean, still to score 5 points per entry is you're looking at a try at a time. The big problems we get onto is we had about 40% territory the whole game. We just weren't getting into that zone to be efficient. But it's nice to know that when we're there, we can score.
Yeah,
and
I think that
at least we're a good point that we're moving forward. Because we've got to remember is this team is basically trying to relearn how to play after whatever on earth Gatland was getting them to do.
But I think that's it, isn't it? It's our natural game is thinking for yourself, thinking on your feet, looking for an opportunity and making the most of that opportunity. And it became too scripted. And I think that is what Jockey does bring to it, where he goes, actually look at what's in front of you and play what's there. We weren't afraid to attack from our own 22. All right, we cocked it up, we gave them a try. But we weren't afraid to try it. Whereas maybe last season or earlier this season, that just wouldn't have been a thought that would have entered anybody's head. Now, you could turn around and say, yeah, that one blew up in our faces. Yeah, but the more you keep doing stuff like that, the more you keep looking that you want to do things, the more the opposition react and the more of them will come off. So, yeah, it's frustrating. I can see a lot of positives coming from it, but we still lost, and we were never going to win that game when we're scrambling for a try on 80 minutes to bring it back within 1 point, 7 points. So yeah, I don't know about you guys, but I just couldn't get into that game on Saturday. I don't know what it was. It fell flat for me from the kickoff. It just didn't. I couldn't get up for that game at all.
I
And
thought it was a
I
good
think
game.
it's just that again. I think it was just that first half. It didn't look like we were trying to play, and then we kind of remembered what we.
mm,
It was almost like that they reverted back to type under Gatland for a lot of it, and it
which
didn't
a
really
lot of them
work
have
out.
been
And then
brought up.
it took basically some people to come on and change it. I think Nicky Smith basically not. This is not a referee who likes Nicky Smith. I think you can go through the annals of WRRAP previous episodes with the former Ospreys representative would talk about that particular referee and how much he hated Nicky Smith and would penalise him constantly. And you know, it's one of those things. Some referees don't like what Nicky Smith does. Other refs, you know, all they care about is that whether or not he's going forward and if his elbow's up or down. Others will look at the angles of scrimmaging. Andrew Porter as well, like certain refs, just will completely ignore him. Others are right on him. So I think go again. Will Grifton have good, and I think as soon as that set piece is going a bit funky. I mean, we do have to praise Scotland because their breakdown work is just. They are probably one of the best teams at absolutely ruining your ball at the breakdown, and because pretty much the whole pack can jackal. Like they're all genuine jackal options. So I want to put that, but also disrupting line out, which is something again I said, I said on this pod and I said on kind of Central as well, is the two things we need to do is make sure our line out's secure. And part of the reason why I wanted Wainwright to come back in was that extra jumper, and to get nail securing ball, which again we've talked about Thomas Williams being too slow, but there were some out and out jackals that turnovers that were just you could see them coming straight away.
I think Scotland had worked out that there was going to be Ben Thomas was going to tip on to Max Llewellyn. They'd give a half a yard and then they'd have somebody over the ball. And I think they had a plan to counter that.
Predictable already.
You can see what we're trying to do, though, can't you? Like you said, it might not be successful, but at least now under Matt Sherwood, I can see what Wales are trying to do. Whereas under Gatland, I couldn't have a clue. Like, okay, that bonus point try, that was comical. They were never dare to do that when Gatland was coach. I can tell you that now. No way would they have attempted that. But obviously, Sherwood has said to the players, and I've heard the players say as well, just go out there and play without fear. I remember Elliot D in an interview saying he's just told us to be brave with ball in hand. So whilst it might not always work, at least what I will say is I can see what this Wales team are trying to do in attack, whereas under Gatland the past year I just couldn't see anything. And Howley, of course.
But do you think players they look happier playing? If that sounds weirder, do you know what I mean? There was a lot of heads down before. Now, even when we go behind the heads, don't necessarily drop. There's a bit more oomph about it.
The shackles.
I mean, that was the thing I was going to say. Is I think it got by that sort of third try, you could see it sort of they dipped into the back, and again that second half time seemed to revitalise them. And you got because I feel like that goal line stance where we were kept Scotland out quite a few times in the second half. I don't think the team that Gatland was in control of in those first two rounds would have kept them out. I don't think they'd have had the heart to carry on because it's natural. I'm not going to say they weren't trying their hardest, but I feel like when you're happy and you believe in what you're doing, you do have those extra 2%. Whereas, it's just a lot easier to just be like, I'm blowing now. It's that whole mental thing of running. When it's a sunny day, you can run, you can go on a nice run, no problem. When it's a bit wet and miserable, you're really struggling to get through it. Or you could be you might also just think, I want to get this over and done with as quickly as possible, but you sort of get my point. I do see the heads aren't dropping. I don't think it mistakes as often. We still had a lot of that in that second half, but again, this is a very short mini project. They were never going to be the finished article after 3 weeks, 2 of which half the team weren't there. So that's the other thing. Is basically that fallow week was wasted. Really, I don't know what you actually could have done.
Put the 50 cap rule back in, and half of them will stay. Anyway, let's just wrap up this little bit here. So I've just let listeners know that I haven't prepped you guys on this. Okay, so what we're about to do, you guys have got no idea at all. So scores out of 10 for Wales just on that Scotland one, right? And it can be either a whole figure or it could be 10.7, 8.75 or whatever, however you want to do it, yeah. But your score on the team as a whole for that Scotland game. So, Jamie, your score out of 10 for Wales?
5.8.
Quite low. Okay. Any justification on the 0.8?
But it's hard to tell because we were so bad in our first half, and we only really came alive in the last 20, didn't we? So I don't want to score 7 or 8 because I don't think that would be wrong. 6 maybe, but I just think 5.8 is probably a fair reflection because, like I said, I'm pleased with the comeback at the end, but we still made a lot of errors, poor defence, compounding errors. So I'm going to give it a 5.8.
5.8. Okay.
Yeah.
Harley?
I mean, I was just going to go for the flat 6, but similar thing as, I mean, if I could give like a first 50 minutes and a last 30 minutes scores, it'd be two quite wildly different ones. But I'd say about 6. I mean, it wasn't meh, but it was. I think there was enough bad stuff in that first half to drag it down.
Okay. Nick, your score out of 10?
Typical Cardiff performance, 5 out of 10.
Okay. For the audio listeners there, Harley's making an interesting gesture with his middle finger that might be hidden in a side face. Okay, so 5 out of 10 from Nick. So yeah, I'm kind of like 6, but because Harley's gone for 6, I'm going to go 6.1 out of 10. Just it does take a lot of bottle to come back into
It's not
the
a
game.
prediction league.
I
You
know,
don't have there's no mark for who
saying,
gets closest.
I'm
to
just
it.
gonna go. I'm just gonna be different. That's all. But yeah, I think if we can, well, I mean, we'll talk about changes and what have you in a minute. But if we can capture that last 25, 30 minutes, and put that for the full 80, then I think we'll be in with a better shout. But yeah, I say it certainly it wasn't above a 6.2. It was definitely 6.1 at max for me. So okay. Right, let's move on gently then into the England game. But before we do, got a little bit. So obviously, first of all, if you're enjoying what you're seeing and what you're hearing, do give us a like, a review. If you particularly like the Dragon's Lair, and Jamie's not bribing you with this or anything, but if you like the Dragon's Lair and you leave them a 5-star review, Jamie will give you a shout out on the Dragon's Lair pod. So I'm not going to make any promises like that for this because my admin will be absolutely awful. But I'm sure Jamie will be more than happy to keep an eye out for 5-star reviews for us as well. And do give us a subscribe on YouTube as well. And then I've got a little present for you. So this is just for listeners. So keep an eye on our socials later in the week. We've arranged a little bit of a thank you, a little bit of a discount with a website called distillunion.com. And they do kind of like gadgety bits like wallets and phone cases and sunglasses and stuff like that. Really cool stuff. Stuff basically that middle-aged men will look at and go, that's quite tidy, that is. I quite like that. So yeah, give them a little bit of a review. There'll be a discount code on our socials later in the week. So I've got to put my hands up on this one. If you use our discount code, we do get a little bit of kickback from it. That's the way these things work. But yeah, you will get a discount from them. And some of the stuff they've got is really cool. It is quite cool. And as a middle-aged man that quite likes his gadgets, yeah, Father's Day's coming in a couple of months. I know we've got Mother's Day first, but Father's Day's coming in a couple of months. We'll buy myself a couple of things, give them to the
It's starting to
kids to
sound
give
like
back.
the niece socials.
I'm just saying what you can get on this website. So keep an eye on our socials from Wednesday onwards on that one. Okay. We're not going to talk about Neath RFC and Llangennech, Harley. That's we'll let people work themselves out and estimate our reaction to that particular advert. Suffice to say, I don't think any of us are going to that game. Right, England. England in Cardiff, last game of the Six Nations. Nothing on the table for us. England are still in with a chance of winning it. I'd say France have pretty much got it wrapped up, but while there's a chance, there's a chance. So Harley, you can kick off on this one then. Thoughts, expectations, hopes, fears?
So it's one of those weird ones. So first of all, England played some absolute great rugby against what is increasingly becoming a terrible Italian defence. Like the more I'm watching this Italian time play, the more I'm wondering how on earth did we manage to drop the ball that bad? And then I remember Howley was in charge of the attack. But the good news is that England only play like that against Tier 2 and Italy. So they'll probably go back to typical Borthwick, kick up the jumper, kick it. The problem is we probably don't have the back three to compete with that, especially with Tom Rogers going off, Blair Murray being found a bit wanting under the high ball. Be interesting to see what Borthwick does at 15, whether he brings Freddie Stewart in for just sheer aerial dominance, or if he goes for Marcus Smith, that dual playmaker, just let him roam, or if he keeps Elliot Daly at 15. I think Wales, the only thing really we need to see is just an improvement again on last week, which based on that first 50 minutes should be fine. I'd like to see a little bit more impact from the start, a bit more beat and carry. This isn't a criticism of Elliot D. I just think Derry Lake just adds a little bit more power at the start, so I'd be tempted to switch the hookers round. Given how the sort of way England scrummage, maybe Gareth Thomas Azarati might be a better starting combo and then having the other two off the bench and going for more stability and then maybe having some attacking off the bench. And I mean, this is you can call this blue and black tinted glasses all you like, but I'd like to see Teddy Williams start just because I think he's offering a lot more than Will Rowlands is here, both sides of the ball, and went on some of the primary stuff, which is like line out calling and hitting rucks. That's my sort of take on the pat. I'll let Nick and Jamie do I'll let the two pretty boys in the pod do the pretty boys in the team.
I just like the fact that you admitted to you might be wearing blue and black sunglasses there, Harley. I think it might be it's a level of self-awareness that might be happening. But I happen to agree with you on Teddy Williams on that one. So Nick, your thoughts on Saturday and England? I like the way you started there, Nick, because that was a really big, deep side to start. That was like.
Well, if England got any sense, they will go a bit wider because our defence out wide, whilst it was fantastic, we kept them out, but we looked poor. Once we got the ball, they got the ball into the wide channels. Very good players, Scotland, but we made them look good as well with some poor one-up tackling. I think Harley's quite right. 2 sevens didn't work against Scotland. We've got to have some more physicality in the 6 shirt. I'm not sure if Wainwright provides that physicality, but he's after Jack and Faletau, he's the best back row player. So do you just try and go with your best back row players playing on the field at the same time? And I think I'd be inclined to do that. I do really rate Wainwright. I think he's a very, very talented player. Backs, I think it's just a case of who's available, really. I don't think Joe Roberts is really good, but he's not a winger. And I think if he was selected on the wing, I think England would target him. I think he's fine to come on, and he did a fantastic job on Saturday, and certainly shows the type of player he might develop into as a 13. But I don't think he's a winger. So I think I probably would select horses for courses, and we've only got back three players fit, haven't we? So I think they'll all play. The question is, do we let Anscombe have 50 minutes and then bring Jared on, or do we start with Jared? I think Thomas Williams has been okay this season, but he hasn't quite hit the heights I was hoping from him. He might need to offer a little bit more, because Anscombe offers nothing as a running threat, does he? So if he's not doing that, maybe he needs to snipe a little bit more from 9. And yeah, as we said, perhaps the Ireland game flattered us a little bit. We fully expected to lose these next three games, But I think if we can stay in the game and not play as badly as we did in the first half and go in close to England, I think we've got a chance. But it's a big ask.
Jamie, is all hope gone before we kick off?
No, I think this is a winnable game. I really do think. I'm not saying we will win, but this is a winnable game. England do not like coming to Cardiff, as history shown. Roof closed, crowd going wild, packed out. But I think there's a genuine chance of winning. I just want to see us replicate what we did against Ireland. Because I think if we replicate that performance, we got a chance. Solid set piece, go hard at the breakdown. We've got a really good kicking game, aggressive defence. England's defence out wide is really dodgy. So Ireland and Scotland exposed this when they play them. So I think that's an area we can target. In terms of changes, I do think a few changes will have to be made. So obviously we expect Josh Hathaway to come in for Tom Rogers. There are other options. You could put Blair Murray to the wing. You could put Anscombe at fullback and then you start with Jared at 10. That's one option. Or you could put Llewellyn to the wing, which is, he has played at wing for Gloucester. In terms of the 10 debate, I've seen a lot of people saying they want Jared Evans to start. And I'm not against it, but here's the thing people need to remember. It's easy to come on and make an impact when the game is broken up than it is from actually starting and trying to control the game from the first whistle. Do we trust Jared Evans to come on and control that game if he starts? That's the only thing for me. So it's an interesting debate. I'm really not sure whether you'll lean towards Jared at 10, but like I said, it's been easy for Jared to come on when the game's been broken up to make an impact than when you actually have to start from the get-go. In terms of forwards, I would bring Aaron Wainwright into the back row. The guys are right. It didn't work today. That back row. It worked against Ireland. It didn't work against Scotland. And we need ball carriers. And that's what Wainwright offers. He is a ball carrier and a line-out option. So I would bring him in. So I go for Wainwright, Morgan and Faletau. That'll be my back row. Will Rowlands, I've said it before, he's a shadow of the player he was 3 years ago. Pains me to say that, but I think he's on the way out internationally. I would bring Teddy Williams in because I've been really impressed with him. I'm sorry, Will Griff-John. Maybe that was an outlier, that performance against Ireland. We all know how good he was there, but I would drop him for being very dull. I don't think he deserves another start after that dreadful yellow card, and he was very poor. So the question is, do you go for Azarati, who I actually thought, like I said, showed up the scrum when he came on, but Henry Thomas is a stronger scrummager. So that's something you go way up there, but I definitely wouldn't have Will Griff-John in the squad. And yeah, I agree with Harley. I would have Dowie Lake to start. I just think that with England, with a big pack and they're physical, I think you need a bit of physicality and size in the pack. And Elliot Dee will never let anyone down. He never lets the Dragons down. He doesn't let Wales down. He is Welsh rugby's most reliable and consistent player. But let's not forget as well, he's had a lot of joy with Wales being our impact sub. That was his role, and he was very good at that role. So I don't see any reason why, he can't go back to that. And I would start that way. Like, I know he's had a lot of rugby. I get it. He's just come back. But I just think we need some size and physicality in our pack. So those would be my changes. But I'm optimistic. I am optimistic. And I do think it's a winnable game. England are coming down to Cardiff. The problem is they're coming down with it's a very slim chance of winning the Six Nations, but they still got a chance of winning the competition. And for us now, it's about saving face and trying to get a win. Because if we lose against England now, this would be a record row of defeats for a tier 1 nation. So we're going to make history for all the wrong reasons now if we lose against England. But I'm looking forward to it. I do think we could turn them over. I might be in the minority, I don't know, but I am feeling optimistic, hopeful.
But that's all that's going to be in the press come Thursday, Friday. This is what England need to do to win the championship. Here are the permutations. Is it to yes, it's to all of that kind of stuff. And the bit that I think they forget is just how intense the atmosphere is inside the Arms Park, inside the Millennium Stadium. Sorry,
Principality.
Arms Park.
Yeah, that's the area of Cardiff. Yeah, but they forget what that's like. And when you walk out onto that pitch, particularly when the roof is closed, particularly when you've got a bit of support behind you and your Wales, and there's a bit of pride. There's a lot of pride at stake. This Saturday. If the crowd can get behind the anthem, you can see that in the players. That carries them for 20 minutes. Yeah, if the crowd can get involved before the game in the singing of the songs, they can hear that under the stadium. They walk out into it, and there's this massive crescendo of noise. If anyone starts singing Chariot on Saturday, you have my permission to shout them down, boo them down, do whatever you got to do, but shut them up. Yeah, it makes a massive, massive difference to the boys on the pitch. And that's the bit that you can't really calculate. That's the influence that you can't replicate anywhere else. It accounted for a large part of what we did in Ireland, with the changes in coach, the expectation, the freedom to play, and all of that kind of stuff. But then the crowd get behind you, and it gives you a massive lift. So, yeah, I think England will be taking us way too lightly. I think England will be focusing on, we'll walk out, we'll have our pretty white shirts on and our fancy gold boots, and we'll just fanny around for 80 minutes, and we'll come away with a bonus point win, and lovely jubbly. And if we can get in them, get amongst them from the start, particularly up front, start wrecking their ball. Let's not give them any kind of respect at all. Let's get stuck into their rucks. They do tend to leave one or two in a ruck where they should need 3 or 4. Let's get stuck into them and wreck the ball. Let's put them off their game from the start. Then I think we're in with a good chance. I think in terms of selection, my only one would be Anscombe. It just, I don't know that Jared would be better, in all honesty, but for me, Anscombe just doesn't offer enough. If you're going to put a playmaker at 12, you need to have a playmaker at 10 as well, so that you're distracting the back row. If you're a back row and you know that the playmaker is at 12 and the 10 is either going to kick or pass to 12, you don't bother with the 10. You just go straight to the 12, because he kicks, you get the ball back. Anscombe doesn't offer enough for me to challenge the opposition back row, whereas Jared absolutely would. And I think with the size of their back row, we need to tire them out. We need to just confuse them from the kickoff about what's happening, where it's happening, and all of that kind of stuff. So that would be my call, is to put Jared in at 10, maybe even Dan Edwards on the bench, and just, let's really mess up their heads in the last 20 minutes so they won't know what to do. And the guy plays with confidence. He's cocky, he's arrogant in a good way. Let's put it in their faces and show them what it's like. So I'm kind of in Jamie's camp, where this is doable. They are beatable. And yeah, I hope we do it. Of all the games that you play that you want to win, this is the one you want to win. And it's every season. This is the game that everyone wants to win. So there's a lot on this one, and I would love to see it. Whether it happens or not, I got a feeling it's at least 4 cans of Pringles for this one. It's going to be that game, but yeah, fingers crossed for that one.
But this got shades of 2007 a bit, isn't it? Do you remember 2007? We lost every single game when Gav Jenkins was in coach. And then our last game against England, that was the one we won. Remember, we was heavily written off. They came down here full of confidence, full of beans, and they came a cropper. And it happened in 2013. Remember that, when they came down here for Grand Slam? All we heard from the English rugby media, what they had to do to win, how many points they needed. And, well, we know what happened. The rest is history. So, English arrogance, not so much from England themselves, but definitely from the English rugby media. I'm sensing a bit of arrogance, but then that's always the case, isn't it? So it's a winnable game.
Yeah, big one.
Just
big
before
one.
we move on, I do want to back up, because obviously you've both mentioned about possibly Jared to 10, and Jamie rightly put about his game management. I think the Ireland game showed that no, he can't. I don't think he can manage a game, Tom. What I think you almost have to do is what we planned to do. The plan was in the 2019 Six Nations, where we went for basically Anscombe started, play wide, and then Biggershot, was there to close the game at the end. And I think we've basically got to turn around and tell Wales, as soon as they get hit, pretend it's half time, as soon as they line up for kickoff, and say, you're down by 40.
Yeah.
And just let them play, and just let's see what happens. And then bring Dan Edwards, who I think is the sort of player who can close a game down, but also if we still need to chase a game, like I could see him being able to run an attack in such a way that you'd go for that. But anyway, I suspect Jockey will keep Anscombe at 10 if
I
he's
think
fit.
he will. Yeah, I think he will as well. But it won't surprise me if he started Jared, because he's a big fan of Jared, as we know. So
he was a big fan of Jared with Anscombe at 15 of
that could
having
be an option.
a dedicated 10 to do a lot of the 10 stuff, particularly things like goal kicking. Although it was interesting to notice that Jared took over the kicking when he replaced Anscombe. So I thought that might have gone to Ben Thomas. When he came on.
Okay, lots of stuff to look forward to, gents. So let's get some predictions. Let's round this one off with some predictions. So let's remember, we're playing England at home on the last day of the Six Nations, and they're arrogant. So on that one, Nick, you can start your prediction for Wales versus England on Saturday.
Actual score or the difference?
Up to you, mate. Go wild. You know, we're in the world of just doing whatever makes you feel happy. So go with that.
England 25-18.
Okay, I don't like what you're saying there, Nick. Okay, 25-18 from Nick. Harley?
I'm gonna go. I think the streak's gonna end by some point, and I think Wales by 1, squeaky bum. We go out hard and then we just about hold on to it, because that's the sort of game that England like to lose.
And so Harley's stolen my thunder and has predicted Wales by 1. I'm gonna have
What
to
were
have
you
a
gonna
massive
predict, then, Lee?
rethink now. Jamie, what are you thinking?
head says England, but heart says Wales. Oh, bugger it. Why not? Wales by 2. Why not? I just want to see a win. I'm a very desperate Dragons and Wales supporter. I want to see a win. Please, for the love of God, somebody win.
But it's on
So
dead. 2 weekends on the bounce.
So Jamie's going Wales by 2. So I'm going to go really controversially. I'm going to go Wales by 8 and England to only get 3 tries. So they walk away from that game with no points at all. We're going to score 4 tries. We're going to win by 8. And we're just going to piss England off, because that's what we do best. That's when we're at our best, is when we're pissing the English off.
But it's
One
Italy,
thing I'd
Ireland
like to say
first,
is,
though, isn't
if
it?
we can get 2 points, we won't finish with the wooden spoon, or
No,
we
that's
might
the
not
point.
finish with the wooden spoon.
But it's Ireland, Italy, or the Ireland up first. So they'll put pressure, because you expect Ireland to win. They're going to put pressure on England. They'll know what they have to do.
Yeah.
Won't they, to come down? And then obviously in the last, well, we know what France got to do. It's a bonus point win, and I'll guarantee them the Six Nations, regardless of the result. So it's set up for Super Saturday. I'm pleased. I'm looking forward to it. I'm pleased that Ireland lost. As much as I like Ireland, I'm glad they lost to France, because it sets it up really nicely for Super Saturday when you got a number of teams in it, in the competition. So it'll be good.
Cool. And then next week we can go back and talk about proper rugby again.
Oh, great.
Which would be
Can't
nice.
And
wait.
how none of our players will be available because they're all crocked.
I can't wait.
Well, we will have a chat about the Six Nations campaign as a whole, and whether Jockey stays, whether he goes, whether he wants it. The English press have started commenting on who's next for Wales and all of that kind of stuff, which is never a good place to be with that. So that's coming up next week. Don't forget to check our socials after Wednesday for the discount code that I was telling you about. And on Saturday, please do get involved on our socials and let us know your thoughts and feelings on the game. And of course, our 3-word reactions after the game on a Saturday. You are always welcome with that. So we are done for another week, gentlemen. Nothing left to say except enjoy your rugby. I'll see you next week. All the best, gents.
Bye-bye now.
Stuff.